Hello, in this part 2 tutorial of the settings sections of the presence panel, I will show you how you could configure the buttons of your Polycom phones for all the people in your company. So to access that, you go ahead and click on settings on the top right after accessing panel.net2phone.com, and then go ahead and click on config tool. And down below you will see here different templates. There's the system default template, which is the template that Net2Phone has as default with no buttons on it at all. Then below that you have company templates. Those are templates that you could create for multiple people throughout your organization. And then the bottom one is personal templates, if you create a template specifically for specific users that you know is just for one user and not meant for anybody else. Today we're going to go ahead and create a company template for multiple users. So I go to company template and I click add new template. And then I wait for the page to load. And depending on how many users that you have in your company, it could take some time. So we'll call this demo test template. And I could choose whether this is the default company template. What that would do is that if I set it as the default company template, anybody who gets added new to your company, this is the template that will get added to them automatically from the beginning. Next section, I could choose what type of phone template that I want to use. So the Polycom VVX400 is our most popular, so that's what's defaulted, but you could choose the VVX300, the 500, the 600, as well as some Yeelinks as well. I'll go ahead and use the Polycom VVX400. And then, as you could see, the Polycom VVX400 has 12 buttons. So down below we have 12 buttons as well that you could configure. Options are line. What line is basically you're literally registering a line to your phone. So by default, the first one is my extension. That means whatever extension this phone is registered to, that will be what shows up, your line 1 key. You generally do not want to change that because that's going to be your extension showing. We'll go ahead for this tutorial and add another line. We'll choose a different user here. So I'll go ahead and pretend I want to also show Tim Jones extension on my phone. That means I literally can make outbound calls and I will receive calls on Tim Jones extension. My phone will register to Tim Jones line, and if I want to make an outbound call using Tim Jones extension, I'll click that second button. The more common thing to do is to monitor other people. What that means is that you'll be able to see other people in your office, whether they're on the phone, whether their phone's ringing, or whether they're available. That's the most common use versus registering to every line. So I'll go ahead and say monitor. I have the option of saying monitor. When I choose monitor, do I want, when I click that button, that I actually call them? Do I want it that I page them? So is it that when I click that button, instead of calling and ringing their phone, it pages them and auto answers, picks up on their end? Or do I want it that when I press that button, it sends the call to voicemail, to their voicemail? So if I want these buttons just so I could transfer to people's voicemails, I could do that. The most common one, once again, is call, which means I'll call them. And then I could choose who do I want to monitor. So let's set up a couple people over here. Let's say Rob Rogers over here, as in this example. And I'll monitor A-Rod, and I could put one more person in here just for testing purposes. And you can see the people I used already are crossed off because you can't use them twice. So I'll go ahead and add Jonathan Chomko. I also could set buttons as speed dials. So what that means is that if I go ahead then and add people to my directory, company directory, and I set them as a speed dial, then basically they'll start showing up over here depending on what number speed dial I put. So I could go ahead and just click off some speed dials here as well. And then I may want to add some park buttons. Park buttons allow you to place a call on hold and then tell somebody else to pick up the call on that same park button. So let me try that. I'll add a park 1, park 2, and park 3 over here. I also have the ability to relabel things. So let's say A-Rod, I want to, it's going to show up as A-Rod, but let's say I want to call him Alex instead. So I could go ahead and click this label button over here, and I could write Alex. what that will do is actually make Alex display instead of A-Rod. So I could change the label of how these things display. If I happen to have down below, so we also have a setting over here where if, let's say, you try to monitor yourself. So let's say over here I'm Stephen Smith, and I put in here to monitor Stephen Smith. So let's actually show that. So if I put in here Stephen Smith and I'm monitoring him, let's say I used all these buttons up already, then we have it that the system's smart enough that you're not going to actually show yourself monitoring yourself because you know whether you're on the phone or not. So it's illogical to have a button to monitor yourself. So we'll remove that. So really then you're missing, if you filled in all 12 buttons, if you think about it, there's really, since this one will disappear, there's really an extra button not being filled in. So we give you this thing called a replacement key where you could add another button as well so that when Stephen Smith disappears, we could actually monitor somebody else as well. We also have the ability to add on an expansion module. So if you purchase the Polycom VVX expansion modules, you get a bunch more buttons, as you can see, with 3 pages. So you could go ahead and fill in the expansion module the same way that we filled in the buttons up on top. For this demo, I'll turn that back off. You also have the ability to add users here. So now you could decide which phones get this template. So I'll go ahead and add a couple of users over here for this demo. And I'll click Assign Selected Users. So you could see that they're selected. And now I'll go ahead and save this template. So now this is going to go ahead and actually create a template with the buttons that we discussed up above, and it will go ahead and create it for those specific users. So now that this template was created, if I go ahead and click Add Users, so as you can see, I already have those 3 users that I added assigned, and I could go ahead and add more users to this if I wanted to, or I could remove them and click Assign. And sure enough, you have those users assigned. Once this is done, all you have to do is go ahead and reset the phone. You could do that by either unplugging the power from the phone, leaving it for 5 seconds, and then plugging it back in. You also could go on the phone and click the home button, then the settings button, click basic, update configuration, click yes, and then the phone will download the new template and those buttons will appear. The other thing that we have over here is the phone directory. If you click on phone directory, by default what we do is we create a directory filled with all the different people in your company. And so that if you go into your phone directory, you could see all the people and extension numbers on your phone. But once again, you could go ahead and create a company directory or a personal directory. And this gives you the ability to add phone numbers that you believe that people in general will use in your company. So I could go ahead and first thing I could do is name it. So I could say default demo directory. And I could put in here an extension or a phone number. So let's say I was putting in net phone support. I could put 1-866-978-8260. And I could say net phone support. And here's that speed dial thing that I was talking to you about before. So if I wanted this to be the first speed dial that appears on the phone, I could just put the number 1 here. And that will make it the first speed dial. And I could add as many numbers as I want. So I could put a fake number here. This is just putting it for fake, and I could put a speed dial, or I don't have to. I could leave that blank if I don't want it to be a speed dial that appears on the front of my, on the front of my phone. So I could go ahead and I could also, the same way as before, I could go ahead and assign users from here. As well, and I could save it. I also have the ability, obviously, to assign users later on once it's created from the other page. So now you could see here it is. You could see that it's the default, so everyone now, all the 11 users that were up on system default are now over here on this company template, and I could go ahead and assign people if I want to this default demo template. If I want, it actually shows me who's assigned to it, and I could go ahead and click this button over here to add or remove users to this template. So that's basically how you could configure your own phone. Once again, every single time you finish doing any sort of update, you should make sure to restart your phone, and by either unplugging the phone, waiting 5 seconds, plugging it back in, or doing that, pressing the home button, settings, going to basic, update configuration, and clicking yes. Thanks. Once again, reach out to us if you have any questions. Net2Phone support is always here for you at 866-978-8260 option 2, or emailing us at support@net2phoneoffice.com. We're always here to assist you. We could help you make these changes as well, but if you want to do it yourself, you have access to do it here in this panel. Thank you.